Well, welcome. If you're new here, I am the campus pastor, Lane Landers, back from vacation. So you're getting one of those preacher vacation messages. I'm going to share basically just some of what I felt God shared with me on my vacation and my time in the woods and in another state and the river and all that kind of stuff. And so it's going to just be one of those times where I'm sharing some ideas. And you can see my title. Someone was picking on me like I keep titling things after like drug stuff, like paraphernalia, like, you know, I'm just working that YouTube SEO marketing stuff. That's all. Anyway, I'm gonna get a lot of negative comments from certain people that clicked on our video because they thought it was something else. And but anyway, it is what it is because we're in Washington and I get in this place and among the trees now. Now, granted, when I moved from San Angelo, Texas, the desert area, to Arlington, Texas, I thought I was in tall trees. And I got here, and I'm like, I'm just loving it. You know, even though I grew up also in Ohio, where I had taller trees than here. But another thing, and I'm here among the trees because you know, in San Angelo, we just got cactus. You know, it gets as tall as your belly button, and that's about it. And plus all the plants want to kill you, and it's a whole nother thing. And so here it's like, oh, we got nice plants, and they're tall, and they're green. We got green here. But I go over to Washington State, and I'm just there among the trees and in the mountains and the clouds. And the idea is I'm in awe of God's creation. I'm blessed. I hope you're someone that, you know, some people are like, oh, I don't care for art. I'm like, then at some point in some level, you must not care for God because God is an artist. Can we just agree? God is an artist who created such a beautiful, wonderful place that we get to be a part of, even if it's not even quite how it's intended and designed in the garden. But we still got some beauty in the place we live. I'll pick on my hometown and all that kind of stuff, but don't get me wrong, I still love the cacti and our mesquite trees and all that kind of cedars and things like that. And so I love the desert as much as I love the greenery and where we are here. But I'm walking around and I'd get dropped off in the woods. We're there at my wife's aunt's house and they would just drop me off at the woods and I'd have everything I needed, snacks, a little book to read, and pen, and water, and just be like, it's whenever you come back. If the timing lines up, we're all good. If it doesn't line up, don't worry about me. I'll hike home. You know, there's only 2.5 miles to the house. I'm like, I can't go wrong hiking in the woods, and then even the walk home would have been along a lake. So I'm like, it's a win-win. Like, there's no losing here, even if I don't get a ride home. And it was just such a beauty. I just walking around, just in like, if it wasn't for having to follow a path and other people sometimes, like I just wanted to walk with my head up, just walk looking at God's creation, even though it's not all up in the heavens, and there is a creation here. But like, I just wanted to walk with my head up, which is a good time to have for a vacation. Because too often, leading up to vacation, I'm not always walking with my head up. Anybody hear me on that? Sometimes it can be really easy to walk with our head down, our head low, looking down. And so to be in this place, it makes me think about this story that we're going to look at, where I could only imagine, I hope, that the Israelites walked with their head up in Exodus chapter 13. Exodus chapter 13, verse 20, it says, the Israelites left Succoth and well, if it sucked, that might as well be a reason to leave, and camped at Etham, youth pastor joke, on the edge of the wilderness. The Lord went ahead of them and guided them during the day with a pillar of cloud. Oh my goodness, could you imagine, like you are leaving slavery and God is leading you with a pillar of cloud during the day to protect you. And it says, and he provided light at night with a pillar of fire. This allowed them to travel by day or night, and the Lord did not remove the pillar of cloud or the pillar of fire from its place in front of the people. You have been leaving a place of slavery. You are many people marching to freedom, and you are led by a pillar of cloud and a pillar of fire, depending on your situation. I hope in this situation the Israelites could not help but walk with their head held high, looking up at this amazing cloud. There's a little bit of the feeling that I kind of had of like, what is this experience, God, that you would bless me with? I don't get to see a miracle, or I'm not seeing a miracle in this sense, but can I place myself in this situation? And can I see, as the children of Israel saw, leaving this place? Can I get a picture of God's provision in my everyday life like the people had in this moment? And I believe this is good. But the thing is, then I'm in the trail and I'm walking along, my head's up, and then all of a sudden, because my head's up, guess what happens? You can imagine I stumble on some tree roots. I stumble on some rocks, and I stumble on the things that are taking place around me. I do have a couple of thoughts here that when I'm looking at the clouds, my first thought is, I will stumble but not fall. And I got a picture that of as I was walking in this way, that a stumbling would happen. And now, granted, I did not fall. Now, some of you are like, well, I'm kind of clumsy. I might have fallen in a situation. Just stick with me in my imperfect allegory and picture here that I'm painting of this situation. And I remember looking back. I looked back one of the times, and the tree root was sticking up so much that someone even like painted it yellow and come back with spray paint to kind of warn you, like they do on the curbs. It didn't help, because if I'm never looking down at my feet, it doesn't matter what color and what they're doing. But I thought about that, because the funny thing was about my trip is I was missing out on something. And something that some of y'all, and it's fine if you think this is so important, and it is important, don't get me wrong. But my trip, my vacation just happened to line up with a big election taking place here in America. And instead of me being engaged with media and online, I'm off in the woods, disconnected, turned off. I ain't paying attention to nothing. I don't even know, like on that day, I was so turned off on my vacation, I didn't even know who was going to win or who won or anything else that happened after that. And I thought about it, I was like I'm in this picture, but isn't that sometimes when we are so focused on God, sometimes we're going to stumble on the things of this world, but we will not fall. And I got a picture of an intentionality of, you know what, of the things that sometimes we just need to disconnect from. Now, maybe for you, it's not the election and you're involved in politics and there's a level there, but maybe it's social media. Maybe it's like, you know, I think about it all the time. My daughter sends me a TikTok and an old man here, it comes in and I don't have TikTok and I click on it and now TikTok wants me to log in to watch. I can't even watch the video anymore. I am missing out and stumbling on some things because I'm choosing to miss out, because oftentimes what I recognize is not that because that thing is bad in and of itself, but I know that it's bad for me and I've got to say no to it. And so sometimes there's a thing that I stumble on. There's movies that I just choose to watch, whether I just don't care or don't think it's good for me, or sometimes I know it's not good in general, but we won't start judging movies and stepping on toes in this space. But you know what? There was a movie that I just hadn't watched, and you know what it created though? It created an opportunity for somebody to just sit and talk to me and tell me about their favorite parts of the movie, and I listen. I had Colin picking on me being gone and picking on me about all the Cowboys information that I missed out on, because I'm not anti-Cowboys, by the way. Just I know Devin's not here. I know I tend to pick on them, but I'm not anti-Cowboys. I'm just not, football is just not my sport. And so it just gives somebody an opportunity to even just, you know what? You tell me about your thing. You tell me about the thing that I'm missing out on. But sometimes we get into FOMO so bad that we think that we have got to fully engage, and we give our attention and our focus to the things of this world instead of God's creation and what God's doing. Maybe it's not even the clouds. Don't get too narrow on me in the sense of thinking that it's literal in what I'm talking about, that it has to be the clouds. But ultimately, the clouds being a picture of, can I stay focused on God? But as I'm focused on God, sometimes there are going to be things I might stumble over because I'm not aware of. And I believe that's okay. I believe that we can be okay. By the way, one of my favorite sports, Major League Soccer. I know for some of our people here, football. I saw the Manchester United highlights come on my YouTube. I was thinking about you, Paul. I was like, is Paul in a good mood or a bad mood? I'm going to watch the Manchester United highlights. And I don't know if that's really the case, but that's the way I play it in my head. And I'm watching the highlights thinking about Paul Gibbs. But MLS, when you go to watch a game, they say, we invite you to turn off the world and turn on the game. I love that. I love that picture. Turn off the world and turn on the game. That'll preach right there, by the way. That's Major League Soccer doing some preaching of something that maybe we need to apply in a little bit other areas in our lives. Maybe there's some other moments where, you know what, maybe you're right. Maybe this is the time. Maybe all of the hype, all of the information. You know what, I've already even made my decision in this moment, in this situation, in this election, and all this other information is only meant to rile me up, and it ain't going to help me and do me any good anyway. I've already cast my vote. I've already done my thing. Maybe there's an aspect that we in the church, we can turn off the world and turn into God. And the people following these clouds. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 25. Proverbs 4:25 says, "Look straight ahead and fix your eyes on what lies before you. Mark out a straight path for your feet and stay on the safe path. Don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil." Keep your eyes straight ahead. Keep your focus on the path that God has for you. And there's going to be some things that we're just going to have to say as Christians or just in your calling that that's not the thing for me. That's not the thing I'm going to engage in, whether it is a particular form of media or even conversation. Maybe it's at work and you're like, I'm just not going to even give my voice that is not mine to give anyway. I'm not even going to give my voice to that conversation at work. I'm going to change my conversation. It's even creating boundaries. And I remember my wife and I having different jobs and coming home being like no work talk at the dinner table, no, especially with the kids, and setting some boundaries that in this space I'm not going to bring the world into this space. It's the temptation as a pastor that we've had to work through so often because we come in watching news of whatever the subject matter is just before church, and we want to bring it into this space. We want to bring it into God's house, and we want to bring the world into God's house instead of taking God's house into the world. But the people of Israel, many of us been in the church for any amount of time, we know time and time again their struggle. They're going around the mountain, stuck in the wilderness. But even in this, I say, while looking at the clouds, I might be surrounded but not defeated. Because in this situation, we oftentimes might actually, face situations that I don't want to be ignorant of what's going on around me. We can't be completely oblivious to certain things and some basic levels of information. And so I look at chapter 14 of Exodus, back at our text. And we'll read a few verses here if you'll hang with me. In Exodus 14, it says, "Then the Lord gave these instructions to Moses. Order the Israelites to turn back and camp at," that town Pi. If you're a math person, you probably like that. "Between Migdol and the sea, camp there along the shore across from Baal-zephon. And then Pharaoh will think," then the Israelites are confused. They are trapped in the wilderness. It's funny, some people probably think we're confused by not engaging in some of their media, but Pharaoh thinks that the people are confused and they're trapped in the wilderness. "Once again, I will harden Pharaoh's heart and he will chase after you. And the Lord says, I have planned this in order to display my glory through Pharaoh and his army, his whole army. After this, the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord." So the Israelites camped there as they were told, a confusing strategy and plan for them. They just got done following pillars of cloud and pillars of fire, and now they're being a part of this entrapment for the enemy. When the word reached the king of Egypt that the Israelites had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds. "What have we done? Letting all those Israelite slaves get away," they asked. So Pharaoh harnessed his chariot and called up his troops. He took with him 600 of Egypt's best chariots. I tell you, let's skip down to verse 10. You get the idea in the picture. "As Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked up and panicked." I love this picture. I don't want to be too literal in the sense of what's happening here, but a picture of looking. They were no longer looking up. They were looking down. It says they looked up and panicked when they saw the Egyptians overtaking them. They cried out to the Lord. And they said to Moses, why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness? Weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt? What have you done to us? You just got done following miracles of God and you've already forgot. You're already in this situation. What have you done to us? Why did you make us leave Egypt? Didn't we tell you this would happen while we were still in Egypt? I told you so. We said, leave us alone. Let us be slaves to the Egyptian. It's better to be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness. It's better to be a slave in Egypt. You might know the phrase, better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven. You might I feel that from the Israelites in this situation. They're like, we should have just stayed where we were because now this experience of fear. But how often do we get in these situations and we've experienced the miracle of God and it was short-lived? We saw the clouds and God's creation all around us, and the minute the storm comes, we've forgotten what the sun looks like. We might as well be, as a goldfish I was thinking about. I saw the news, somebody did a life-saving surgery on a goldfish, a 17-year-old goldfish, and they're like, with a 3-second memory, yet so this goldfish life was saved. And, he doesn't even remember the surgery. But how likely is it for us sometimes to be in this situation, and it's better to be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness? We get so overburdened by the emotions of what we're experiencing and we're already forgetting the miracle. I mean, I was already the day it came time to leave, I'd spent day after day in the woods, in the wilderness, my wilderness, a good wilderness, not the Israelites' wilderness, but I'd been in the wilderness, in hours on end, just walking and seeing. I will say that the rock that I had confessed, I was going to sit on the middle of this rock in the middle of the river and read and write. And then I got there and they got a bunch of rain. And so the rock was a waterfall. It wasn't a rock anymore. There was water just rushing over the rock. But don't worry, man, I found a bench and all that kind of stuff. And I don't remember where I was going with that, but we get so short-lived. And then the day came to leave. And I don't have any kind of fear of flying. I don't know if that's you though, but I just hate flying. It's not a fear, it's a hate. I just don't like the chaos, and then we get there, by the way, and here you got, I'm just gonna rant a little bit. We gotta take our shoes off at DFW, but in Portland, we're right outside of Washington across the border, and in Portland, I get there and I'm getting ready to take you don't take your shoes off. I'm like, what is this? And they're like, I'm getting ready to take all my electronics out, all of them, and put them in another bin. And they're like, no, leave that in your bag. I'm like, what is this? Oh my goodness, I really was in a great place. Anyway, I don't want to go too far with airport security and discussing blessings, but bless them. But you know what I mean. And I was like, man, can we get this in DFW? I am tired of taking my shoes off and thinking about no metal and all this kind of stuff. I'm hiding my watch and I'm anyway, like I said, it's a whole thing. But I'm the day of, I might as well be going back into depression because of my hate. It's for some of y'all, it's your Monday after Sunday. You come here on a Sunday and you get all filled up and you get encouraged in the presence of God and the Holy Spirit speaking to you. And it ain't even Monday morning, it's Sunday night. You're thinking about what you're going to wear the next morning. You are already becoming sour and bitter and moving into that expiration date of Sunday because you're looking, you know what's coming the next morning. Let's be real. Sometimes we have those challenges. It's not my Monday. I work for a church. My Monday's not like that. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to tell you. Don't believe all the hype. I got back Tuesday, not really that bad, but I did get back Monday night, and I woke up Tuesday morning, hit the road. I'm on a staff meeting and with all our campuses, and we get there, and the boss, Pastor Walt, he wasn't on that meeting, and I'm like, all right, who's in charge? And they're like, you are. I'm like, wait, what? Okay, I have given zero thought. This is the first thing I'm doing back on the clock. I have zero thought to what this looks like. Anyway, hopefully Pastor Walt doesn't listen to this message. Anyway. The Egyptians, Romans 15:13. We'll get back on track. I pray that God, the source of hope, will fill you completely with joy and peace because you trust in him. I'm going to let that simmer for a bit. I pray that God, the source of hope, the source, the one we must turn to, the one that we will find what we really need, the source of hope, will fill you completely with joy and peace because you trust in him. Then you will overflow with confident hope. I love that there's even just another descriptive word, as if the word hope wasn't enough in and of itself, that Paul says in our translation here, says confident hope through the power of the Holy Spirit. But that's just the thing that some of us, we need a point of no return. We need a no turning back policy in our lives. And sometimes it's hard, and we're like the Israelites going around the mountain or stuck in the wilderness until we finally realize that there must be a point of no return. And this is what I experienced on the trip. And all my cloud gazing and sky watching and hopefulness of God's creation all around me, and gazing at nature and the rushing river and having my time. And then on my last walk, I get to the park and I'm there and I get dropped off. So my wife and my aunt, they just drop me off and jump and roll situation. And I get out and whatever it is, and I go. And this day though, so before I'm like, hey, if it doesn't work, when y'all are done to pick me up, like just leave me. I'll walk home. I'll hike home, right? And I forgot my wallet this day. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, now if I even hike to a store, I can't buy anything. And so I don't have my wallet. I still got some snacks. I still got a bottle of water. And then I come up to the river and I get to the spot. Now, the day before, I got to the spot that I've climbed down before. And I was like, it's a little too muddy. I probably don't need to go to the hospital today. I should probably skip on this. And I'm here without a car. And it's not like when I've crashed my bike in River Legacy and I'm able to get out of there. And I'm like, the wise thing would probably be to skip this climb. It's got a rope tied from a tree at the top of the hill to the tree down at the river, because that's how steep it is. But then the last day, I'm like, that's the last day. I'm like, it's dried up a little bit more than yesterday. And I'm contemplating. And in my contemplation, I go to set my water bottle down. And I didn't do a good job. And my water bottle tips over and goes rolling down the hill. Don't you love it when you see things in slow motion? That we get a glimpse of how God sees our lives sometimes, that he does not view us in real time, and he sees our lives in this moment, and we get a glimpse sometimes. And here I am, I feel like just watching and praying in slow motion, because I'm like, if that water bottle goes in the river, I don't know how I thought all of this, by the way, in this moment. I'm really like, and I'm like, if that bottle goes in the river, I am done. Like, I don't know, I guess I'm going to turn around and go home immediately now, because I don't have water, and I don't have money, and I'm in this situation. And I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm watching, and then all of a sudden the water just sticks into the tree. I had a bunch of pictures, by the way. I totally forgot to tell them to show you the pictures. And it sticks in the tree. And now I guess I got to go. I guess a decision has been made for me. I love it when decisions are made for me. I was sharing a story about a mission trip. We were in Guatemala doing some missions work, and we were going to some night schools. And I was sharing with the Pays apprentices just the other day. We were doing some leadership stuff, and I don't even remember I was sharing the story, but sometimes you need a decision that's made for you where it creates a point of no return, because I'm at the place, I'm like, there's no option that I must go down this hill. I know I'm really sad about it, to be honest. I was kind of loving God in that moment for whether that was him or not, I'm just going to give him all the credit because it was positive, right? And, but I was sharing, we were in Guatemala, and I remember one time that we were going to this night school, and I was nervous. We did a lot of ministry in schools and plazas during the day, and it was all scripted. I just had to memorize the script and do my part and know my part, and we would do a skit and presentation of the gospel and share the gospel and pray for miracles. But this night, we're told that we're going to a night school instead of the festival for the team I'm a part of, and in the midst of that, we're also told that there's no script. Just preach the gospel. Whatever the Spirit speaks to you, you just preach that right there. I'm like, you better be listening for the Holy Spirit when all of a sudden you're given instructions like that. And so I'm so scared. I'm nervous, and and my fearless leader Jamie with her fearful follower Lane, and we go to the first school, and another team showed up at that same school, and all of a sudden we're like competing. I'm like, please let it be this school. This school is nice, and there was like this auditorium, and it was like all this stuff, and I'm like, let it be done. Like let us get here and be done, and it's the wrong school. I'm like, okay, we can go back, right? We should go back to the hotel. That means we're done, right? Like I don't have to go any further. My point of no return hadn't been reached yet, but Jamie's like, oh no. We're pressing on and pushing forward to find the right school, and we get to another school, and then we can't find the entrance, and then we finally find the entrance, and we go over to these big doors. You would have thought it was like the Middle Ages of Stone, or not Stone Age, Middle Age or whatever it is. Anyway, some place with big doors, metal doors, like a castle. And we're getting there, and she's knocking, and no one's responding. And I'm like, okay, time to go home. I guess we again, the point of no return had not been reached for me, but for Jamie, we had already passed that she probably passed that well before she even got on the plane to fly to Guatemala. And then Jamie is there rattling these doors. She's shaking these doors. This isn't just my introvert self being scared. Like this is like lights are coming on. People are starting to look outside. We're in the city. And she has no fear and just rattling these doors. But it was in this moment that we had one of the most amazing experiences of our lives reaching the school. And we walked into a school of teenagers teenagers and young people who couldn't be in the regular school. And we walk in to all kinds of things being hollered and yelled, and wolf whistles at the ladies that were with us and all this stuff. And we walk into the school and we share the gospel. And not only did and there's so much more to the story, but not only did so many people raise their hands for salvation and miracles that take place, there were people on rooftops that weren't even a part of the school that were being blessed in this moment because somebody had a point of no return. And sometimes we need those situations. It's those moments. It's the water bottle down the hill that says, this is a point that I am not turning back. I'm going to chase after what God's doing here. Or somebody you partner with, a pastor or a leader or a group leader, to say, I'm at a place at a point of no return, that there is no going back to the old way of thinking, the old way of living, the old things I used to watch, the old ways I used to speak, that there is a point of no return, that I am not going back. And this is what we see with even the Israelites, because even though they're in this position and place of fear and what is God doing in this moment, there was a thing that God was doing. In Exodus chapter 13, verse 17, when Pharaoh finally let the people go, God did not lead them along the main road. So we're going back in time. We're doing one of those kinds of movies that's jumping the timeline. And it says, God did not lead them along the main road that runs through Philistine territory when they're leaving, even though that was the shortest route to the promised land. I don't know about you, sometimes I wish I'd, in all my ignorance, thought I'd been on a faster track, that I would have been further along than I am now. And don't get me wrong, that's not a bad place to sometimes be, but sometimes the place you are is the place you need to be. It's just your journey. It doesn't matter whether you think you're where somebody else should be, as knowledgeable as somebody else, as spiritual as somebody else, as prayed up as somebody else. None of that even matters. It's just being obedient to what God's calling you, because it says right here, God said if the people are faced with a battle, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. Before they had crossed the Red Sea, that comes later in this text, you can read later, but it says, but even in this situation, if the people are faced with a battle, and notice that God doesn't say that we see in the text that they would lose the battle. It just says if they even faced the battle, they would turn and run back to Egypt and go back to the place they had come from. There are too many battles that God believes that we can take. We don't believe like God believes yet. We have not prepared ourselves for a point of no turning back, a point of no return. So God led them in a roundabout way through the wilderness towards the Red Sea. Thus, the Israelites left Egypt like an army ready for battle. Maybe you're still in Exodus chapter 13. Maybe you're still looking for your point of no return. Maybe Maybe you're in Exodus 14 and you've already passed it, but even though you've crossed the Red Sea, you've experienced the miracles of God in your life through salvation, through healing, through miracles, through breakthrough and provision in so many ways. There's still the temptation, even though it's even without out of your grasp, but yet your mind is still tempted to reach out to the thing that is not within reach, and you're still living there mentally, even though you've really past the point of no return. And if you haven't, what is that point? Maybe you feel like it's expired. Maybe it's just one of those moments that it's like, oh, well, the expiration date, it's already passed. I've already missed the opportunity. What good is it now? I remember when God's love reached out to me that time years ago, and I didn't say yes. What good is it now? Oh, but my age now, what more could God do with me at my age now? You're just a part, just like the Israelites on this journey. And I believe that there is a point of no return. I'm a big fan of 21 Pilots and the last song on the album. And it's funny because this is a song that I've been listening to since the album dropped, day one, immediately jumping on the album, listening to the album. And the last song of their recent album that dropped this year, there's these lyrics, and I may not do it justice, and you can listen to the song Paladin straight, but it's funny how many times I heard these lyrics, and maybe it spoke to me a little bit, but coming off this trip, my vacation, and struggling, because even this is my own story, by the way. This is me in the wilderness, and in the good wilderness, that seeing the clouds and walking with my head up and seeing the pillar of clouds, but then going back to the house at night and then still battling the thoughts. The things that were said before vacation, the things that had to be done or not done, left undone, whatever it might be, the things I got to do when I get back, and being in this situation and saying, but God, the point of no return. And the song says, here's my chance, time to take it. Can't be sure that I'll make it, even though I'm past the point of no return. I'm all in, I'm surrounded. Put my money where my mouth is, even though I'm past the point of no return. And this is what I believe for us today, is that we walk in light of the miracles. And the stumbles may come, but we will not fall. The enemy may surround us, but we will not be defeated. And there's always going to be reason enough to look down, reason enough to stumble, reason enough. And I love even in Exodus chapter 14, verse 14, I love this part. So we're going back again now to the end of this section of the story before the Red Sea, the most famous part that so many times we get caught up in the story of the Red Sea and really miss out on some of this story of the Israelites. But in 14:14, it'll be easy for you to remember, the Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm. Maybe today you just need to take a walk in the park. Maybe today you just need to go outside and see the trees before the leaves are gone for winter. See the blue skies, the sun shining. Maybe today you need to do whatever it is that holds your head up. Be reminded. Maybe even take notes. Send yourself a text message. As if it's yourself from the past. It may seem cheesy or weird, but we live on the stories of people of old, of people living generations before us, and we relive these stories to remind us that we are really not that different. What is humankind that would have such a short memory to go from the pillar of cloud to the fear of the army? Maybe you need to send yourself a text message. Maybe it's the thing you wish you could have told yourself at 16, at 26 or 46. It's going to be all right. 14:14. The Lord himself will fight for you. Stay calm. keep your head up. Keep following the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire. By day and by night, the Lord will fight for you. The Lord will protect you. By this journey or that journey, by every journey of life, the Lord will fight for you. The Lord will protect you. Stay calm. What is your point of no return? And maybe today is the day. Maybe this is the moment that you say, you know what? No more. No more of that. No more of that talking. No more of that watching. No more of that relationship. No more of that way of living. No more fear. No more focus on the tree roots trying to trip me up. It doesn't mean, again, don't be ignorant of the ways of the enemy and the world that comes against us, but can we keep our head up, family? Can we stay positive, focused on the Lord, church? What is your point of no return? Can I pray for you this morning? Heavenly Father, I thank you that just as you would lead an entire people group of Israelites out of slavery through a journey to teach them, to show them your way, and even in moments that it didn't seem what was best for them, that they failed to understand and know that there was a greater plan and purpose. And just like we read in Exodus, and what you did for God's people then is what you still do for us today. That you are planning and preparing a journey of blessing, a journey of freedom, that you are leading us to a place, or we are even in a place. Because even in the wilderness, your manna and provision were there. And so even in our wilderness, your provision is there, Lord. May we have the eyes to see how you're moving right here, right now. And it's not you moving when we get to the promised land. It's not when we have done enough. It's not when we get it right, but it is right now. It is right here. You are available to us right in this place. You fight for us, even when we don't see it, even when we don't deserve it, even when we can't know it yet. But we thank you for the times that you have moved for us in our lives in the past. And I ask, Lord, that you, by the power of your Holy Spirit, would open our eyes to the times in the past that you have worked and moved, and you open our eyes to the right here and right now, and then you would even move prophetically in our lives, or even through other people that would speak to us and encourage us, that there'd be a prophetic voice in this house that would direct us to the battles that you have already moved in our lives and provided in the future that we have yet to even see or move in. And I thank you for this voice, your voice, that would move in us for us, and that would move in us for each other. And this is my prayer for the church. In the name of Jesus, we say amen, amen.